Welcome to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast, where we discuss all things wellness.
I'm Eleni Welch, nutritionist.
And I'm Kay Boyer, health enthusiast. Welcome back, Renegades.
Welcome, Renegades.
Welcome to the day of the week where Eleni makes me a better person for a week. And I need a reset every week.
Yeah. Kay's weekly reset button.
Yes. So good.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to talk about dopamine.
I need this reset. Holy moly.
Yes. Dopamine and why our nature to chase dopamine hits is harming our health.
I am a victim to this right now, so I want to know all of this.
Well, you and everybody else in the entire world.
True. Our brains are like molded to do this.
Yeah. So first of all, hello to our listeners in Portugal.
Portugal.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Beautiful place to travel to.
I know. I was looking at pictures of it when I was writing this episode. I'm like, this is gorgeous. I didn't realize what a beautiful city it is. And one of the healthiest foods that we consistently recommend eating on this podcast is fish.
Oh, fish.
And Portugal is the third highest consumer of fish on the planet.
I bet they're very healthy.
They are very healthy. Just after Iceland and Japan.
Wow.
I know.
Those are kind of spread out on the map. I figured they'd all be more Mediterranean or something.
Well, they're all like fishing zones. So.
Yeah, that's true. They're true. Not like
fish.
Iowa. We're
not. Landlocked and yeah. So way to go, Portugal. That's awesome. Probably every time we talk about eating fish, they're like, way ahead of you.
Yep, already had it.
Portugal is also home to the world's oldest bookstore, which is that speaks to my soul.
That is cool.
I want to go there.
Okay, what year?
Oh, you know what? I didn't look it up.
Oh, that's okay.
That's a good question, though. I should.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And since we're talking about dopamine today, and one of the things we're going to talk about are things to replace dopamine, like sharp spikes with. So things like binge watching TV. I'm going to recommend switching that for reading. Oh. So this connects right in.
Yeah. We can recommend a good old dusty bookstore.
A good old dusty bookstore. It just makes me think of the opening scene in Beauty and the Beast when Belle is in that. I always wanted that massive library that she's in.
Oh, I love it. Beautiful.
Yeah. She's sliding on the ladder. I'm like, I want that someday.
Yes, and the ladder up to all the shelves. That I'm just more of an home decor person, so I want that book ladder in every room in my house.
You wanted it for decoration.
Yeah, I wanted it for decoration.
And I wanted to fling around a room on it and pick books out of the shelf. Like a Disney character. Yep. Anyway, good job, Portugal.
Yeah, thank you.
Fish eating, book reading.
Yes,
people.
They're happy. Their dopamine is real good.
Their
healthy
dopamine
brains.
is good. That's right. Yes, both from the fish and the reading. Mm-hmm. Yes. So in today's world of constant notifications, whether it's from texts and emails or social media likes or messages or let's talk about the candy bowls that never run out at our work desk or Netflix autoplays. Anybody?
Yes.
We are in an environment of constant dopamine influx. Yes, because we are constantly having little dopamine hits from all of those things.
The modern world.
So today we're going to talk about why our quest for good feelings might actually be doing more harm than good. And then what we can do about it to rewire our brains. Because consuming quick pleasures that give you quick hits of dopamine wire our brains in a non-beneficial way. So we need to have slow happiness.
Earn it.
Natural happiness.
You know what? This podcast keeps coming back to my grandpa's wisdom. You know what I mean? Don't eat all the sugar. And
go
you
outside.
gotta work hard. Go outside. It's oh, you're right, Grandpa.
Yes.
Don't be on your phone all day. Okay.
Yeah. If we'd had cell phones back then.
Right.
Yeah, because eventually when we're constantly seeking those little quick hits, we can lose the ability to enjoy life's simpler pleasures, which leads to discontentment and anxiety. And I don't know about you, but that sounds like 90% of our population to me today. Discontent and anxious. That's why everybody's writing mean comments to each other on like social media, because everybody's just wired and anxious and angry and irritable because our brains have been rewired that nothing brings us happiness anymore.
True. Very true. Yes, I see it. I totally see it. And even me, after 10 minutes of social media, I'm like barking at everyone in my family.
Yes.
Like, what is wrong with you, Kay?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll go into a little bit of the physiology behind why dopamine hits make us feel good and why we seek after it. So we talked about dopamine quite a bit in our Your Brain on Sugar episode where we talked about the addiction of sugar because dopamine came up with sugar consumption and the quick hits that happen with that.
Quick hit too. I like that. Yep.
So make sure to visit that episode, but we'll just review the process of what dopamine does in our body for your listeners here on this episode. So central to what motivates our brain to do something and then to do it again is dopamine. And dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and it facilitates the brain's reward system. So it makes us feel good. So neurotransmitters, as their name implies, are transmitters of information. So they're little chemical messengers that our brain sends throughout our body to our cells, and our cells send back to our brain. They basically are the body's communication system. So anytime we need to reset something, get into homeostasis, balance our body, balance our hormones, whatever it is, neurotransmitters carry that information.
Okay.
So the body tells the brain what it needs. The brain tells the body what it needs. You get it. They basically help regulate every cell, tissue, and organ in our body. And each neurotransmitter is, of course, critically important because if you were missing any of them or low in any of them, you would be missing the information that that specific neurotransmitter transmits. And even more important is for us to maintain balance in our neurotransmitters because we don't want to have too high or too low of levels. When our neurotransmitters are in balance, we're able to be more in harmony with our environment. We're able to think clearly, experience joy. We have a sense of overall well-being. So it's important that those things are balanced.
Yes. That reminds me, we had on that Dr. Tanya English who was saying that, like talking about disease is dis-ease. So like when something's wrong with your body, it's the dis-ease. But us as a human species at baseline should be living at ease. Or should be living with joy or satisfaction or a baseline of like life is okay.
Yeah.
Where it's very interesting where dis-ease is like it's not okay. And in this case, more of like a mental feeling of like, why don't I feel okay? Because we sort of should feel okay at a baseline.
Yeah, at baseline. Yeah. Absolutely. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter associated with the ability to focus, experience pleasure, maintain our attention span, follow through on tasks, feel satisfaction when we learn something new, receive praise, or engage in physical activity like playing sports. There's a lot of things that dopamine does in our body. And dopamine can induce feelings of joy and happiness. It's essentially satisfaction with life's simple pleasures are part of that dopamine reward system. So when we engage in activities that trigger dopamine release, we experience joy, we form memories, and then we want to do it again. So we talked about that in our sugar episode of Your Brain on Sugar, why sugar addiction happens and how to beat it. Because when we engage in something that triggers that dopamine system, like sugar consumption on, say, a holiday when we're eating like grandma's apple pie or homemade cookies, then those memories are formed in association with those foods, with the sugar, and those memories make us feel good. And then we want to repeat that experience, which obviously isn't a problem if what you're enjoying, is a holiday pie. But it is a problem if what you're enjoying is donuts and cake and
everyday
cupcakes
breakfast
and candy every single day of the week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So although dopamine has a good side, because it's important that we be able to experience joy, form memories, enjoy learning, playing sports, all of those things, it can also have a harmful side because we need to have that system in balance. And when it's out of balance, it can be quite harmful. So the greater reward we have, the greater the dopamine release, which brings greater pleasure and a stronger drive to repeat that experience whatever that experience is. So the more dopamine something releases, the more we're inclined to try and repeat that process. So whether we realize it or not, we all chase the release of dopamine.
Absolutely.
Our brains are wired to do that. Nobody is immune to that system, nor should you be, or you wouldn't enjoy anything.
Right.
Right. Or try and repeat in like joyful experiences. So this system evolved, if you remember, that it evolved in a simpler world where dopamine hits were limited. Like historically, humans sought pleasure and avoided pain in order to survive. This was a necessary survival mechanism.
Yeah.
Now we face endless access to essentially instant pleasures and little pain for a lot of us. Some of us have very painful lives, but in general, people who...
Like convenient modern lifestyle.
Yes, exactly. The convenient modern lifestyle has a lot of instant pleasures, very little pain. And it's a challenge now because we live in this world of abundance where so many quick hits are available to us of dopamine.
Wow. It's so true. It's everywhere.
So unfortunately, in today's times, the greatest dopamine spikes often come from rewards that undermine our health physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So for example, drugs. Drugs are something that flood our brain with dopamine, which then hijacks its reward system. And because the rewards of normal day-to-day life pale in comparison to the experience of what dopamine arises from doing drugs, then basically normal day-to-day life pleasures lose their value and meaning to us.
Yes.
Which is what makes drug users willing to jeopardize everything and everyone in their life in order to get more of that drug, and is why a lot of people who have had loved ones who became drug addicts say they're just not themselves anymore.
Wow.
Because they're not. They've essentially...
Their brain has been hijacked.
Yes.
Wow.
So while drug addiction is demonstrating kind of this one extreme of the most significant and obviously one of the most destructive dopamine spikes, we have to understand that even small dopamine spikes matter because small but constant dopamine hits can spur addict-like behavior, even with things that are relatively benign in comparison to doing drugs. So amazingly, brain imaging has shown that social rewards, things like social media and getting likes on your profile, releases dopamine just like drugs do. So people can become addicted to social media and develop the same dopamine dysfunction seen in substance abuse. Sorry, I was reading ahead. Substance abuse. So in a 2015 pilot study, researchers compared 33 teens diagnosed with internet addiction to 33 healthy teens. And the results showed that the internet addicted teens had significantly higher dopamine levels than the controls. And dopamine levels correlated with the degree to which internet addiction occurred. So the more addicted somebody was to internet, to social media, the higher their baseline dopamine levels were.
Wow.
So essentially, based on the neuroscience of addiction, what we understand is that all reinforcing substances and behaviors work on the same final common pathway, regardless of how innocuous they seem. So repeated exposure to any sort of highly rewarding stimulus is going to cause the brain to adapt because it's being flooded with dopamine. It's going to downregulate natural dopamine transmission over time, but it's also going to downregulate your sensitivity to dopamine because now your body is being flooded with it, and what your body is like thinking, oh my gosh, I have so much dopamine, I need to control this. So you become insensitive to the dopamine, which means you need more and more dopamine in order to create the same effect that a little dopamine once created for you.
Oh, I feel so seen right now. Like, dang, that social media hits.
Yeah,
Yikes.
this is what we talked about in sugar, why it becomes so dangerous and why people need more and more and more sugar when they face sugar addiction, because the amount of dopamine they used to get from a small amount of sugar, now they can't get that, or they get it, but their brain is now less sensitive to it because their body is like, I'm being flooded with dopamine. I need to protect myself. So not only do we literally naturally get less of a dopamine hit from everyday basic processes because our body is trying so hard to control this system, and we're less sensitive to it. So life really does become dull in comparison.
Yeah. I can even see that for myself, and I am like a grown functional woman. But even for me, I'm like, I'll just be like, oh, I'm bored for, like, let's say I'm at a parking lot and I have to wait for someone for 5 minutes. I'll be like, oh, I'm fine. I'll just get on my phone. And it's like never being bored.
Right.
Always getting that hit. Like even when you go to the bathroom, you can't just sit there. I gotta be like, I'm just going to check my phone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it is like, then when you stop and think about it, it is 100 times a day that this little box has controlled you. And then it's true that I feel, even myself, just a little bit less life satisfaction than I used to have. Just a little bit less.
Not to mention that if what you're spending time on is social media, it's not just the dopamine, it's comparing your life.
Comparison to some other person's ideal life that isn't even real.
That's
and they
not real.
Worked years to get that pretty picture, but we don't know the background.
Yeah. So it's a double whammy, right?
Double
because
whammy.
that's the quote I always hear. Comparison is the thief of joy. So
Yes.
everything you enjoy in your life, when you compare it to somebody else's
Yes.
life, suddenly it doesn't look so glamorous because you're actually living your life.
Yes.
You know, like the goods and the bads and the ups and the downs. But what we're seeing on social media is only the goods and the ups. We're seeing all the beautiful pictures. We see all the photoshopped pictures. We see the bodies that look perfect compared to ours. And it's because it's all staged and fake.
Right.
So not only are we flooding our brain with dopamine and desensitizing it, and like you said, we're also shortening our attention spans because we aren't just allowing ourselves to sit in a parking lot, think our thoughts, be bored, be interested in the things around us. Now we have this like have to be doing something. And now I even find for myself too, it's not like I'm immune to this by any means. You know, like you could be watching a show on TV and you get bored and want to pick up your phone and check it.
Like two screens aren't enough.
Two screens aren't Yes, you know what I mean? I mean, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
Which now that I have a young child, I'm like, she's watching everything I do. So I'm trying really hard to be cognizant of that and not creating bad habits that she's observing, because I'm not going to want her to do that.
Right.
So
I know, it's so funny now. My kids will come into the room, and if I'm just like laying in bed on my phone, I'll hide my phone before they see it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm such an addict right now.
Yes, it is like guilty. You're feeling guilty and you're hiding it.
Because I don't want them to just be doing this, but I just need just a little hit.
It is the true sign of addiction, is that you want to hide it.
Yes. I have a problem. The first step is acceptance. We can work on that.
Yes. So why does chasing highs cause such drastic lows? So substances like drugs, like heroin or cocaine, create a dopamine deficit after the initial high. So they give you a massive high and then a crashing low, which is why people, as they're going through drug withdrawal, feel so terrible. And it's very likely that the everyday pleasures we consume, from that like really sugary coffee drink and donut in the morning to our Netflix binge at night, do the same thing. Dopamine high, dopamine crash. So even innocuous dopamine highs are followed by crashes below our baseline levels, which makes us feel crappy. And then we need to get another high so that we feel good. So as a result, we build the tolerance, trying to maintain balance in our body. Then we need greater substance amounts to reproduce the high that smaller amounts once did. So again, this is the core concept, and I know I'm repeating myself, but it's important for us to understand.
Yes.
If we're going to break the cycle, we have to understand how it works, right?
Yep. Yes.
So essentially, our modern dopamine stimulus, things like the social media, the processed food, sugar, TV, binge watching, all of those things are breeding these addictive habits that fuel our discontentment, our anxiety, our depression. which results in individuals finding themselves compulsively using the internet for days, binge watching TV shows, scrolling for hours through social media, like even to the point of neglecting self-care, which maybe sounds crazy, but it's true. Think about all the hours we waste scrolling through social media that we could be spending doing something beneficial like meditating. I mean, how often have we talked about meditating? I don't think anybody truly doesn't have time to meditate. It's just that we're choosing to use that time for something else. And when we're tired at the end of the day, maybe meditating sounds kind of exhausting. You know, like it sounds like work, right?
You just want to like get your hit. You don't want to have to work.
Yes, you just want to relax. You just want to scroll through your phone. You're looking for the dopamine, the fast dopamine hit, as opposed to a slow dopamine hit, like meditating and being alone with your thoughts, which can be a positive experience, but doesn't offer the same rewards that something like social media or checking our email does, right?
Which, okay, this kind of lends too to like happiness is being present with your mind in the present moment, and all the things like social media or whatever bring your mind into this other space that you're not even in reality.
Right.
And it's like you actually can't be happy unless you're just happy in your skin where you are.
Right.
As you are.
Right.
To just be.
Exactly.
And that's like one of those like grown up like happiness revelations of like, oh my gosh, I just have to be happy being me right here.
Yeah.
Instead of chasing these ideas.
Yeah. Which isn't something we used to have to deal with, right?
Right. We just had reality.
Yeah. When we were like happy in a tribe and community of people, and we didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't even have like mirrors to look at what we looked like.
Yeah, like,
right?
Oh my gosh, is that what I look like?
Is that what my hair looks like from behind?
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, we haven't really adapted to survive in an environment like the one we're in now.
Yeah,
of these
it's
constant distractions, emails, phone calls, text messages, whatever it is, social media likes.
We're able to have someone need our attention at all times from across the world. Like, that's nuts.
Yes.
Wild.
To the extent that we don't take care of ourselves. We don't eat well. We don't like shower when we need to. We don't meditate. We don't exercise. I know it sounds insane, but it really is the hours. I can't remember what the exact number is, but it was the average college student is checking social media like 98 to 100 times a day. It might even be more than that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I haven't looked that stat up in a while, but that's insane.
That's insane.
So that's taking away time from studying and honestly from going out and playing sports or even just taking the time to cook a healthy meal.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like now we're all about this 30 minutes or less meal plans because our lives are so busy, but how much of our busy lives are spent doing things that are kind of a waste of our time?
On Netflix and social media. Okay, when I was growing up, we could only watch 1 hour of television a day, which compared to my friends, that was very low. And I was more of a strict household that way. But now, so I do that with my kids now. But do you think an hour of TV a day, is this okay for our brains? What do we think? Or does it depend on the accumulation of everything else?
Right.
Because on social media, you can do your count on the Instagram. So I only have 15 minutes, and then it tells me 15 minutes, get off.
Yeah.
But I always hit it, and I'm like, oh crap, I got to get off. I'm an addict,
Yeah. I think what kids are watching matters.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes.
Right. Depending on whether it's a lot of quick images, quick sounds, bright colors.
True.
Things that kind of just detract from their attention span, because that's a whole other matter.
That's a whole thing too.
Is attention span.
You're right.
Especially with children. And then, it's like if they're watching a nature documentary, it's going to have a different effect on their brain than if they're watching a show like Coco Melon.
True.
Right?
True. Watching the slow butterfly come out of the chrysalis as opposed to, hey guys.
Exactly. Yes. Here's a song about going to the bathroom, and here's a song about cooking pasta.
Yeah.
So it really depends. But I would think, even an hour is better than what a lot of kids are getting in these days.
Yeah.
And I do think it's important that we teach our children how to manage.
That's true. How to
watching
self-manage
TV.
and be able to be like, okay, I've had enough.
Because if we just are so strict that we're like, no, you'll never watch TV, what are they going to do anytime they get out of the house? Like,
True.
They're going to go sit at a friend's house and watch TV for 4 hours because they can't do it at your house.
Right. Like all my Amish friends growing up. So true. So funny.
Yeah. So I think, and what we're talking about at our level is, minor addiction, right? But there are levels of addiction, true internet addiction, where the individuals, if they stop looking at like social media, or they stop looking at Facebook, or they stop checking their email, they literally feel anxious, depressed, and even suicidal. I mean, how you would feel breaking away from drug use. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that is a dopamine deficit that's so deep. It's pretty much analogous to extreme depression. Yeah. And those individuals don't even have the ability to choose not to use it. I mean, there's clinics now devoted towards breaking internet addiction. So it can be pretty intense. And I think it's important to understand wherever you're at on the spectrum, you're not alone. Everybody's in that state. Hey there, Renegades. Eleni here, briefly interrupting this episode of the Renegade Nutrition Podcast. I wanted to highlight a company that Kay and I have recently discovered that we love, and that company is Bulletproof. Bulletproof sells high-quality nutritional supplements, and every product that Kay and I have tried from them personally, we have found to be excellent. It's important when you choose a supplement that it contain the bioactive forms in order for it to be effective, and Bulletproof has just the right forms in just the right amounts. Right now, if you go to bulletproof.com and use the code RENEGADE15 at checkout, you can receive 15% off your order. That's Renegade, RENEGADE 15. Use that code at checkout to get 15% off, and we'll earn a small commission too. Thanks for your support. All right, back to this week's episode of the Renegade Nutrition Podcast. So pleasure and pain, something we need to understand is that they're processed in the same region of the brain. So the brain is always trying to balance those pleasure and pain signals. So too much of either is tilting the scales, which requires our brain's neurons to adapt, which is hard. That's hard for the brain to have to do. That requires a lot of energy. So overloading on our dopamine triggers addiction, depression, and other conditions by disrupting our pleasure, pain, balance. So what can we do? I read some advice from Dr. Anna Lembke. She is a psychiatrist and author who received her undergraduate degree in humanities from Yale University and her medical degree from Stanford University. So she a smart lady.
She a smart cookie.
She's currently the professor and medical director of addiction medicine at Stanford University School of Medicine. So she knows a thing or two about addiction, and she recommends that in order to regain balance, to balance those pleasure-pain pathways, individuals abstain from dopamine spiking behaviors for 4 weeks so the brain can reset.
Okay.
So that's a month of whatever that thing is for you. A month of no social media, a month of no sugar, a month of no Netflix binging, anything that's kind of causing those short-term rewards. Whether it's your morning sugary cereal or coffee drink, or your need to compulsively scroll through social media for 20 minutes after you get to work.
Or all of it.
Wow. And honestly, I think it's good to avoid anything that's going to spike your dopamine, because
too quick.
Taking a break from one thing and picking up another is not going to help. You're still going to be imbalanced. True. Your brain is not necessarily like, oh, but this was a dopamine hit from social media and this is a dopamine hit from sugar, and now that I'm not getting the sugar one, it's all fine. Like,
right, it's like I still got my dopamine.
It's just a hit. A hit is a hit is a hit. So wherever it's coming from. So cutting out processed sugars, cutting out social media, turning the notifications off on our phones, turning off the autoplay on our Netflix, or maybe just turning off the TV for a month is what you need to do.
Wow.
But a whole month, 4 weeks essentially. So sometimes a month, sometimes not, depending on the month. But essentially a month of abstaining from those behaviors.
That's going to be a dark month. but you're going to come out of it with a lot of light. Okay?
Yeah. And I think whenever there's an end in sight, and we know too with habits, that's another thing, like 21 days typically to break a habit is what I hear.
Yep.
So
and now up to 61, they say that there's different layers of habits.
Oh, so I believe
21 to 61.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yep.
But at least a month falls in that range. So you're starting that process of resetting those habits. So I think anytime there's just a time limit to something, it feels more doable, right? If I were to say the way to rebalance your brain is to never get on social media again.
And never do anything fun.
Yeah. And never watch TV and never eat sugar again. Mm-hmm. I mean, that would feel a lot harder than saying just a month. And honestly, you're going to feel a lot better. I know because I have gone on long extended breaks from social media at different times in my life for various reasons, up to even a year. I basically didn't use it and I was much happier. And now I essentially maintain it because it feels kind of necessary for this podcast to help promote episodes and things like that on my Renegade Nutrition account. But outside of that, I kind of post and I don't really spend a ton of time scrolling and looking at other people's accounts or looking at their posts. I'm kind of more just putting my information out there. Which again is for various reasons. But I think I've always been happier when I'm away from it than I am when I'm on it. Because 100%. When I'm on it, it's just feeling like, oh man, look at how accomplished this person is. And now I feel like my podcast is really small or my influence is really small. Look at, how much influence this person's having. And it's so silly because it doesn't matter. Right?
Yeah, because we're looking at the prettiest person, the smartest person, the richest person, the best looking house, the best, and none of those people have all those things. But when we look at all those people having all those things, we think we need to be this idealist. It is such a mind trick. It's so bad for our brains.
Right. And their life path is not our life path. So I honestly think a month sounds really good. And doing this kind of purge where you're not having sugar, you're not having social media, you're not getting these constant pings and dings from your phone. Doesn't that kind of sound great?
Okay.
Right? Okay, so Dr. Lemke also recommends that in that time that you're resetting your brain, that you're avoiding those dopamine spiking behaviors, you also pursue healthy pain. So things like exercise. Exercise is what we call a healthy pain.
Healthy pain? Okay, I was like, what kind of pain are we doing here?
Yeah.
But okay,
healthy
I get
pain.
it.
Like exercise, learning. Learning is considered a healthy pain because it's challenging to our brain. But you know what? It also releases a level of dopamine on its own. Just it's a
it has
slow
to balance, and so you're working hard for it, so it kicks in the balance. Oh, this is good.
You're so smart, Kay.
Oh, well, look at that.
Yeah. So those things help sustain our baseline dopamine levels rather than these drastic peaks and plunges that we see, right?
Wow.
So you could replace TV with reading. Doesn't that sound nice?
You could a good book.
Yes. And actually this is something I'm currently working on now too, because I don't want to just be watching TV late at night or something. With having a kid, it's hard because you're stuck on the couch a lot.
Right.
With a young kiddo cuddling.
Feeding.
Yeah. So we watch nature documentaries.
I love that. I'm coming over.
I've watched a lot of
I did see your polar bear with the seals. That was good. And I love polar bears. I really do. Okay.
Yes. I'm all about the nature documentaries, or I'm watching things like How It's Made or stuff that teaches me. So at least if I've been watching a lot of, Egyptology and learning about archaeology of Egyptian pyramids and tombs and all this interesting. So I'm trying to, if I'm going to watch TV, do something that is helping my brain learn new material.
Yes.
And then I'm also doing things like reading. I've just started reading a lot of the books I planned to read before Noah was born that I never got around to. And now I'm catching up on those. So I've had a lot of good reads. Mm-hmm. So it's a process, and I'm sharing my own journey with it because I don't want you to think I'm coming at it from this holier than thou. I'm not writing about this.
I don't own a television.
Yeah. Yes. I think we all write about the things that we need help with ourselves. So, and there are just times that my husband and I are tired at the end of the day and we just want to watch an episode of The Office or Parks and Recreation or something really benign
numb out for a second.
Mindless, right? But it is replacing times for conversation and deep, meaningful connection.
Yeah.
And so there's a trade-off, right?
Yes.
So we all have our own battles. We all need to learn how to deal with it. But if you could replace TV with reading, and especially, I mean, honestly, I don't care what you're reading. The book is not going to release dopamine in the same way that an autoplay,
Yes.
of like reality television is bringing to you. But especially if you can read books that offer you some value, that help you with, some self-improvement, or books that, I don't know, a biography of somebody interesting, or history, or it doesn't have to be boring. A lot of those things can be really interesting and engage your brain in a way that television doesn't.
Yeah.
And then going outside, because we know that nature, being in nature, smelling the smells of nature when they're good, enjoying the fresh air, seeing all the pretty sights, hearing all the sounds, those things all help with a very good, healthy baseline dopamine level. It helps lift depression. So if in this month that you're abstaining from your dopamine hitting activities, you're feeling deeply depressed, which would be normal, then going outside is a really great way, and especially exercising outside, because exercise has been shown to be better at relieving depression than over-the-counter medications.
Yeah.
And if you combine it with being outside in nature, you get an extra dopamine boost from that, because we do feel a sense of accomplishment when we spend time out in nature.
Yes. It's like that big trick. Like if you work hard for something, it actually makes you feel better. When you get a quick hit, you actually feel worse in the end.
Yeah.
Gosh, my grandpa, he's so smart.
And I think journaling, like Kay, you mentioned journaling before we started this episode. I think journaling is such a good process to engage in while you're in this month of resetting, because you can journal, here's how I feel at the beginning. And especially if you're noting, like putting into words everything you're feeling. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling irritable. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling bored. Yep. And then journaling throughout the process and see how those feelings change at the end, because you're probably feeling a lot happier, more content, more grateful at the end of a month like that.
Yes.
Than you were at the begining.
Yes.
I would bet.
My soul right now is like, Kay, you need to do this. And the back part of my brain is like, but I don't want to.
It's like the angel and the devil on your shoulders.
And I'm like, okay, one of you is going to win. I'll just keep living with the devil for another month. And then I'll be like, okay, I need the angel to come back.
Yeah. There are also healthy foods that can naturally boost our dopamine, which I would recommend engaging in cautiously during that 1 month period, right? Yes. Because again, although it can be beneficial to boost our dopamine levels because we'll be feeling lower levels, we also don't want to just jump into self-soothing.
Right.
Because because the whole point is to experience life with lower dopamine levels and let that baseline return to normal.
Yes. And this like freedom, like you don't need something to be happy.
Right. Yeah. And you need to be comfortable with embracing the pain that comes with it. And so if you're just like, okay, I'm going to stop everything and now I'm feeling crappy, so I'm going to eat a bunch of dopamine boosting foods, you're not really getting the lesson, and you're not really letting your body reset. The idea is, I'm okay with sitting in the parking lot for 5 minutes while I wait for a friend, or waiting, at the stoplight. Can't tell you how many people I see pick up their phone at a stoplight.
Yes.
Like, wow, you can even wait 10 seconds at a stoplight without checking your social media. So again, it's about embracing the boredom, embracing the simple pleasures.
Yes. Okay. That's so interesting because, so I'm an Enneagram 7. Do you know what you are?
A 3.
A 3. Okay. So, I'm a 7. If you're a 7 listening, you are more likely to be in the addiction. Like, we're more 7s are more likely to become addicts. So for me, like, let's say this is like really important for me because like I feel that impulse, and even that when you're like, well, there's food, I'm like, well, I'm just gonna eat all that food. Yeah. And then when you said how we need to be able to embrace being bored, embrace the pain. The other thing about it, Enneagram 7s, which I'm talking about my 7s right here. I heard this awesome podcast about how we don't like to experience the negative emotions. We only like the positive emotions. So the growth for a 7 is to be able to sit with the uncomfortable feelings and be able to sit with pain and be actually work it through, and it's okay. So this is like a big lesson for me. I'm like, okay, you can sit at the stoplight and not check your phone and live a little in that discomfort. Yeah. You're okay.
Yeah.
It's not going to kill you.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Okay. Like, I was watching Limitless with Chris Hemsworth. Have you watched this?
No.
Oh, it's really interesting.
Okay.
I actually love it because I can't remember if it's on, I think it's on Discovery or Disney. It might be on Disney Plus.
Okay.
But I love it because they're talking about all the things that contribute to longevity, which is a topic we've covered. And I like that Disney is covering it. But Chris Hemsworth, he's getting into things like discomfort. So like hot, cold, he does like a polar plunge.
Oh.
He's facing his fears. So he has to do this like walk across a crane like some 1,000 feet up off the ground.
Terrifying, yes.
Does these different strengths. Anyway, the whole idea is stuff that we've talked about on this podcast, which I was like, we're one step ahead of you, but also good that these things are finally coming to light, right? It's not like, here, take all these prescription medications to live forever. It's like, no, you have to take care of your body and you have to embrace discomfort.
Yes.
So anyway, I think that was one of the things. So one of the things they had him do was disconnect from his phone and go out into basically this, like, go with a friend. They went into the Australian bush essentially and had to like find their way back without GPS, without their phone. And he was, I think, maybe 1 or 2 days in and was just saying, it's amazing how much clearer my head is without my phone. Wow. And he said, I'm noticing things I would have never noticed. I'm noticing the scenery. I'm paying attention to this waterfall. Like, he was enjoying the experience because so often what we're doing, even when we're out in nature, and I'm guilty of this too, is photographing it, right?
Right.
So we see that gorgeous rainbow, but instead of taking it in with our eyes and our soul, we're photographing it.
Yes.
And that never looks as good afterwards anyway.
Yes.
Right. But the whole thing is you're kind of missing the experience firsthand. Now you're looking at it secondhand. You're looking at it through a screen, which is the same as just watching it on your TV.
Yeah. It's wild.
So even just 1 day away from his phone brought this greater mental clarity. And I think that's really eye-opening when we choose to do that, when we get out in nature. Now I've started just leaving my phone. I've actually kind of done this for a long time. But
true.
Leaving my phone behind, unless if I'm with Noah, I have it like in the stroller, but it's do not disturb. It's put away. I'm not looking at it.
Right.
We're out on a walk. I'm paying attention to the sounds that the leaves make in the trees. And I'm looking at the different fall colors, and I'm watching the geese, and I'm listening for bird sounds. And so
that is the secret to happiness, by goodness.
Yeah. Bird sounds.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
If you don't have the Merlin app, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
Is that a goldfinch? Oh my, we got all Delaney.
A tufted tit. Yes. So I think it's all of that is to say, being out in nature, if you don't have your phone on you, it's amazing how much clearer your senses are because you're actually engaging your senses. So when you're looking at a screen or trying to capture the picture, all of your senses are essentially turned off. But when you're taking it all in with your eyes and your ears and your nose and your like skin, right? When you're feeling everything, experiencing everything, it's so much deeper and you have so much more clarity. So get outside. Don't bring your phone with you, or bring your phone but put it on Do Not Disturb and lock it away. I mean, I'm not an advocate of getting lost in the woods,
with no phone.
Obviously, what they were doing in Limitless was all like they had cameramen and stuff with them, so
who had their phones.
So they weren't alone, right? They had help if they needed it. Nobody was going to lose Chris Hemsworth in the middle of the Australian bush. Like nobody was going to take that chance. So.
I'd go searching if he got lost. I'm just saying.
So, yes, but I just thought that was so funny. He's like, I've just been away from my phone for a day and I feel like a different person. And so it's really eye-opening how addicted we are and how much is dulling our senses otherwise.
Like stealing our joy. Yeah.
Yes. So, all right, finally, as promised, here are some natural nutrients to increase our dopamine levels. So raw cacao is one thing that can naturally boost dopamine. Among the key ingredients the body needs to make dopamine is beta-phenyl ethylamine, PEA, beta phenylethylamine, and raw cacao used in dark chocolate is a good source of that. So the PEA crosses the blood-brain barrier, helps stimulate the release of dopamine. So chocolate is a good source of that.
I have it every day. Amazing.
And dark chocolate, not milk chocolate, but dark chocolate also contains cacao flavonols, which can help boost blood flow to the brain, which boosts our mood, improves our ability to think clearly. Chocolate also contains salsolinol, which attaches to dopamine receptors and helps enhance our mood. And it also contains tryptophan, which is converted to serotonin, which is another neurotransmitter that the brain needs to help with mood. So that's kind of a beneficial thing too, is to increase serotonin, and then it's not dopamine. Serotonin is also another reward molecule, but they have slightly different roles. So if you can boost serotonin, it's helping still with that dopamine balance. Curcumin, which is the active component in things like turmeric, is another nutrient that can help boost dopamine production. It has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties as well. So that's beneficial all around. And curcumin's impact on mood in animal studies was associated with balanced dopamine levels. So that's a good one because it helps balance your dopamine, and nobody's going to get addicted to turmeric, right?
Right.
If you've ever had turmeric, you're not going to get addicted to it. Magnesium is a nutrient that can boost our mood. It is essential for brain function, and it's essential for neurotransmitters like dopamine to work properly. Magnesium also helps regulate our blood sugar, so that could be helpful if you're coming away from sugar. And it also helps us sleep and create memories. So there we go. Vitamin D. Optimal vitamin D levels are essential for overall brain function and for promoting the actions of dopamine in particular. Adequate levels of vitamin D are also necessary for general positive mood and well-being. Fish oil. So there are several fatty fish oils that are essential for us. One of them is EPA, and then the other is DHA. Both of those are necessary for the functioning of our cells, amongst other things. DHA is critical for our brain's messaging system to work, which means that dopamine and other neurotransmitters depend on the brain having enough DHA. So making sure you're getting lots of fish oil is important. And then glutathione. Optimal glutathione levels are essential for balanced dopamine. I like the Quicksilver brand of liposomal glutathione. It's just a mint flavored gel essentially that you can put under your tongue, which is what the liposomal part is. And that's a nice quick source of glutathione, which many people are depleted in because we're being bombarded with toxins all the time, and glutathione helps our body deal with toxins. So some foods that can boost dopamine besides the nutrients that I've listed include things like nuts. So almonds, Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are especially rich in selenium, which we need for dopamine production. Almonds contain high levels of tyrosine, which is what dopamine is made from. So serotonin comes from tryptophan, dopamine comes from tyrosine. And almonds have tyrosine. Brazil nuts have selenium, necessary for dopamine. Cheese, obviously, if you are lactose intolerant, this isn't a good option for you. But cheese can help boost dopamine levels. Cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, bok choy, all of those good things. They contain sulfur compounds. So do onions and mushrooms and garlic. And that enhances our glutathione levels, and that helps balance our dopamine. So besides taking a supplemental glutathione, you can balance it naturally through cruciferous vegetables and sulfur-rich vegetables like onions and garlic. Fruits. There are several fruits that are high in tyrosine, such as apricots, elderberries, cranberries, strawberries, kiwis, avocados, and figs. Those all sound delicious.
Fruit. Okay.
Yeah. Seeds, the seeds that top the list, interestingly, are pumpkin seeds. We're right in the right season for that. And squash seeds and watermelon seeds. So don't worry about swallowing those watermelon seeds. You're not going to grow a watermelon in your stomach, as your grandparents may have led you to believe. Yes. But you will balance your dopamine. Further down on the list are things like sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, and black walnuts.
Wow.
Yeah, and black walnuts. We live in the land of abundance of black walnuts out here in Iowa.
I don't love that flavor of those, but I'll eat the other ones.
You can have all the other ones. Oatmeal is also a great source of tyrosine, but do watch out, especially if the habit that you're breaking from is a sugar addiction, because oats definitely increase your blood glucose, at least for most people. So I usually don't recommend them unless you have an adequate source of protein and fat with them. And then green tea. Green tea has been shown in studies to be helpful in Parkinson's disease, which we believe is linked to the loss of dopamine function. So it stands to reason that green tea can help with that dopamine function and help with Parkinson's disease, but also balancing our dopamine levels. And green tea can also help boost our tyrosine, which boosts our dopamine. So essentially, in summary, healthy levels of dopamine are critical, obviously, for a lot of reasons. We need it for brain health. We need it for motivation. We need it to focus, to think, to make decisions, to concentrate, and then to experience pleasure and form memories. So if we need to reset our dopamine levels, it's best to refrain from things that cause big spikes and crashes of dopamine, like social media, binge watching television, eating sugar, doing drugs. I think that kind of speaks for itself. And then maybe turning off notifications on your phone, or even if you just get a lot of texts from one group, mute that group, right, on your phone.
Yep.
And then once you reset your brain, or while you're resetting your brain, try some of those healthy foods and nutrients that are important for maintaining a healthy dopamine balance.
Wow. This was all very, very good advice, Eleni. And you know me being an action person, I am going to promptly hide my phone away. Today, it's going to be buried somewhere. No one get a hold of me.
Well,
I won't answer.
You know, the one thing that's really convenient about especially having a young kid is that nobody expects you to answer right away.
You're so right. And then they don't want to wake the baby, so no one's texting you at
so
all hours.
My phone is literally on Do Not Disturb all day, 24 hours a day, unless...
Do not disturb me.
Yeah, unless well, honestly, it's even on Do Not Disturb when my husband is out somewhere, because I have it set so that his texts and phone calls come through. Okay. So you can always do that.
He's your gatekeeper. I'm going to text Chris now.
Yeah, Kay actually does text Chris.
That. I do
already. There are times when she's texting. Yeah, Chris is like, Kay texted me because she doesn't think you're going to respond.
She's right.
And she's right. Yeah. Yeah, so I've talked about this before, but silencing my phone has made me a happier person. I've been doing that now for almost 2 years.
And the world still goes round.
That's right. I have not missed any major opportunities. I have not.
No one's died.
No one's died.
Luckily.
Yeah. And if somebody really has to get a hold of me, my friends and family know they can text my husband if they need to get a hold of me. But honestly, you would be surprised at what can wait.
What can wait a few hours.
That we think when we hear that notification, our brain is literally wired to respond to it right away. And our attention spans are so shortened by everything that we've engaged in that we think if I don't respond right now, I'm not going to remember to later. Honestly, it's so freeing just to put your phone on Do Not Disturb and not answer it. And part of that, too, is because for my nutritional counseling, my cell phone is my work phone. So there is a degree to which I'm not going to answer phone calls or texts outside of normal business hours, because I have to maintain that boundary as just a healthy way of protecting my work-life balance. So.
Yes. So smart to give those boundaries. True for my work as well. I have on Tuesdays from 10 to 2 and Thursdays 10 to 2. I'm on it. I'll respond during those times, but otherwise, no, this is my time.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So go ahead, turn your phone off, turn your TV off, unplug what you need to, permission.
Yes.
Do all those things. Honestly, you will feel so much better.
but really like scary freedom.
Yeah.
Can
And
I
if
do
you
it? You can do
decide
it.
to delete your social media accounts, I support you.
Then you'll probably be happier.
You will be happier. Although it is funny how hard they make it to do that. I remember when I deleted my Facebook account, Facebook, there's like 1,000 safeties in place to stop you from deleting your Facebook. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And then it still maintains a copy of it for 30 days or something after.
They
and then
come
it
crawling
sends you
back.
Yes, it sends you like weekly reminders. Like, you still have 27 days left before your account's deleted. Do you want to restart it? Do you want to reactivate it? It's crazy.
It is crazy.
They
It's
do
like
not
a
want you to
mind
go.
prison. It's crazy. Yeah.
So break away from it. Be free. We'll all be
free.
happier.
That's right. Thank you, Elaine.
You bet.
I feel freer right now, even thinking about putting my phone away. So thank you for letting us.
You're welcome.
Thank you for letting us tell our phones no.
Yes.
Like, I own you, phone. You don't own me.
Exactly.
Right.
Preach.
Preach. All right. Well, live in freedom, our listeners. And
Yes.
go be renegades.
Go be renegades.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is an educational service that provides general health information. The content on this podcast is not a substitute for direct, personal, professional medical care and diagnosis. You should always talk to your doctor before making a dietary or lifestyle change. Go be renegades!
Go be renegades!